Clouds are made of water. They rise and drift in the open sky, and they might seem light, but each one holds countless droplets of water or tiny ice crystals. Why do they form? Well, warm air near the ground holds water vapor. Air can only hold so much water vapor. When it can't hold any more, we say it's saturated. Two things can cause this: adding more moisture until the air is full, or cooling the air until it cannot hold as much. When the air reaches that point, water vapor turns back into liquid droplets. And these droplets cling to tiny dust specks in the air. When enough droplets gather, you see them as clouds, and if they form close to the ground, you'll call it fog. Well, how do they make rain? Clouds don't always bring rain. Those droplets within it are often too small and too light to fall. They drift in the sky for hours. To make rain, the droplets have to join together and they have to grow heavy enough to fall back to Earth. In cold clouds, ice crystals form and grow at the expense of nearby droplets. In warmer clouds, droplets bump and they merge until they grow large, and soon gravity wins and rain or snow begins to fall. Now, fog is simply a cloud that forms near the Earth's surface. If you stand in it, you're standing inside a cloud. It can form at night when the ground cools the air touching it, or when warm, moist air drifts over colder land or water. Often, fog will linger in low valleys and rise with the morning sun. Now, how does the air rise? Well, clouds often form when air rises and cools, but what makes that air go up? There's four main forces. You have convergence. That's when air currents meet at the surface, the air has to rise. You have convection. Sun warmed ground heats the air, making it lighter, and it rises like a hot air balloon. You have frontal lifting. That's when a warm air mass meets a cold one. The warm air slides over the cold, forming clouds. You have physical barriers, so mountains push air upward, and as it rises, it cools and it forms clouds. As air moves higher, the pressure drops. The air expands and cools. Cool air can't hold as much water vapor, so some of it condenses into droplets, and soon a cloud appears. Now, you'll see many different types of clouds, shapes of clouds up in the sky. Some are thin and feathery, others are layered like sheets, and some pile high into these tall towers. There's names like cirrus, which are high, wispy curls of ice, right? Stratus are those low gray layers that can blanket the sky. Cumulus, puffy white heaps that look like cotton. Nimbus are rain-bearing clouds that are often dark and heavy. And by mixing those names together, you can describe most cloud types. So you could have stratocumulus, which are layered clouds with puffy shapes, or cumulonimbus, which are those towering giants that bring thunder and lightning. High clouds, like cirrus, form way up above the ground, miles above the ground, and are made of ice crystals. Middle level clouds, like the outer stratus or outer cumulus, form a bit lower, and they can be gray or white. And low clouds, like the stratus, can bring heavy rain or drizzle. And then there are the tall ones, the cumulus, the cumulonimbus, that soar through every layer, and those can bring storms, hail, and lightning. Clouds change as the air moves. As water vapor condenses into droplets, heat's released, and this extra warmth can make air rise even higher, causing clouds to grow tall and dark. If conditions are right, small drops can join together and grow large, and soon rain falls. Or if the air is very cold, the cloud may send down snowflakes. Sometimes droplets freeze and are hurled upward and downward and upward and downward inside a storm cloud by strong currents, and this can create hailstones that grow larger with every pass until they're heavy enough to drop to Earth. But you might ask, why do no clouds appear on some days? Well, on some days you'll see a wide, empty sky. High pressure might be pushing air downward. As that air sinks, it warms and dries, and it keeps the water vapor from forming droplets. Without rising, cooling air, no clouds will appear. Clouds are white when sunlight scatters in the tiny droplets, mixing all the colors of light together. They can turn gray when thickened with water, blocking sunlight. And sometimes dust or pollution can give them strange hues. At sunrise or sunset, sunlight passing through more of the atmosphere can paint them pink, orange, or red. But how do you get from clouds to precipitation? Now, we know that precipitation comes in many forms. You've got raindrops, snowflakes, hailstones. Outside of warm tropical climates, rain often starts as snow high up. If it falls through warmer air, it melts into rain. If not, it stays as snow. Sometimes rain freezes as it hits the ground, forming glaze. Sometimes soft ice forms, or solid ice pellets like sleet. Now, clouds aren't just merely these wisps of white and gray drifting overhead, they're actually an influence on your world building. Giving them their due means paying attention to how they form, how they move, how they fade, and how people read their shapes and patterns. You have to remember that many people and many times are looking to the sky for signs, right? They're looking to the sky to help guide them, they're looking to the sky for religious signs and other types of signs. So long before weather instruments or magic runes came into play, humankind looked up and they learned to trust what the clouds foretold. So whether your world's lit by a single sun or many, whether your seas are calm or storm racked, the patterns in the skies can shape the lives on the ground. Consider how clouds fit within larger weather patterns. So you have the grand cycles of wind and temperature that give your world's climates its character. Clouds don't appear at random. They follow rules that are born of heat, moisture, and air currents. A warm inland region might foster these tall, billowing towers of vapor by late afternoon, while a coastal land under cooler skies might have steady, gray overcast. High mountain ranges can gather clouds along the ridges. Vast deserts might not know the presence of clouds except for these distant hints on the horizon. And when you define these patterns, you give your world a consistent logic that can reward the observer. Clouds also affect cultural rhythms. In your invented societies, think about how farmers, herders, traders, and sailors rely on cloud signals. They might have a rich vocabulary for different cloud types, each name hinting at its meaning. So, cell tops for those long, wispy formations that herald changes in the wind, round stacks for the low puffs that promise a gentle rain. A nomadic tribe might move seasonally in pursuit of pastures indicated by certain clouds returning at a specific time of year. A mercantile people might schedule their market days after certain cloud formations herald the end of a stormy season. These patterns can be local and intimate and form the basis of proverbs and old sayings that influence the cultures in your world. They also affect myth, magic, and meaning. They're not just purely physical. So if you have a world that's touched by the arcane or the divine, then the gods themselves can paint messages on the clouds, or at least be perceived to. A drifting crimson haze might be a sign of angry deities. A sudden break in thick cloud layers might be seen as divine approval for a coronation or a grand feast. Certain religious orders might watch the sky at dawn for rare cloud shapes that signal the start of holy celebrations. In lands where magic alters the weather, clouds could hint at hidden powers, circling over a secret tower, or swirling at unnatural speeds, or glowing faintly at night. Cloud patterns might also influence how settlements are built. In regions where heavy rains delivered by low hanging clouds, of course, houses might have steep roofs and extensive gutter systems. In high alpine towns, beneath other clouds that foretell sudden winds, builders might design structures to resist fierce gusts. Coastal cities could see fleets of storm clouds forming far offshore and might place watchtowers facing the sea with trained cloud spotters who ring bells to warn citizens. And over centuries, these could be passed down as traditions. Cloud types shift with seasons, so giving your world a calendar overhead. Maybe a clear high sky dominates the warm months, allowing caravans safe passage under steady sunlight. And as the year wanes, layered clouds roll in, bringing drizzle and shortening the workday. Festivals might coincide with these changes. When that first thin, wispy cloud appears, it might mark the start of a planting season. And the last towering thunderheads of the year might be a cause for a farewell dance, acknowledging that the growing season has ended and preparations for winter have to start. Clouds can also affect trade and navigation. So, for seafaring or desert crossing traders, clouds could become guideposts. On the ocean, certain formations might signal steady trade winds that promise smooth sailing routes. Merchants might follow sky roads or paths that are guided by reliable cloud formations that line up with known passes through mountain chains. A caravan leader might learn that certain cloud shapes indicate a hidden oasis beyond the dunes. In this way, cloud lore could become practical. Knowing the sky could be as important as knowing the terrain. And in cultures that teach navigation orally, cloud watching skills could be passed from elder to apprentice or woven into lullabies, stories, and chants. Clouds also influence plant and animal life in your world. Consider how certain mosses and ferns survive in a damp forest because low, misty clouds deliver daily moisture. Rare birds might time their migrations to coincide with the arrival of high cirrus clouds that reflect changes in atmospheric pressure. A predator in open plains might know the thick, dark clouds mean easier stalking in dim light. By defining these relationships, you can strengthen the bond between those patterns and those living things in your world. Clouds can also be a source of local superstitions. In many regions, clouds become a source of folk beliefs. Villagers might say that if the clouds, quote, wear a crown at sunrise, meaning a layer of bright cirrus at the top, then the day's luck runs high. Sailors might refuse to leave port if they see a peculiar funnel-shaped cloud far inland, believing it to be a sign of a lurking sea monster. And wanderers passing through certain valleys might whisper that clouds low enough to touch the tree tops contain the spirits of the dead and drift between worlds. Incorporating these beliefs can add some additional sense of living tradition to your setting. Guys, thank you again for watching. Every video that I do, every topic that I cover is in an effort to improve the work of the procedural map generator. If you want to support the procedural map generator, or if you just enjoy these videos, please hit like and subscribe below. Thanks again.